Hey everyone, welcome back. This is session 2 of Making My World in My Game. And I'm really excited for this one because today we actually start building. Last session, we did all the groundwork. We created the Godot project, set up our file structure, imported the Legacy Fantasy asset pack from Zadiart, and went through the tileset configuration. If you missed that, I will link it in the description, but the short version is our tiles are 16 by 16 pixels, square layout, collision layers are configured, and the tile set is already assigned to our tile map layer. So when I open Godot right now, this is where we are. The main scene is called main.tscn. You can see it in the title bar. The scene tree on the left has our player node at the top, then a tiles group underneath it that contains 3 child layers: objects, ground, and background. And at the very bottom of the tree, there is a static body 2D as well. Right now, the viewport is pretty much empty. You can see the player character sprite sitting in the middle, but there is no world around them yet. That is what we are building today. Down in the File System panel at the bottom left, here is our asset folder. Legacy Fantasy, then assets inside it. We have got buildings, hive, interior, props rocks, tiles, tree assets, and a background folder with the background.png in it. All of these will be used at some point today. The plan for this session is simple. We build the ground first, then add water on a background layer, then build up a full parallax background with mountains and trees, and finally add some foreground detail and set pieces. By the end of this video, it is going to look like a proper game world. Let us get started. Alright, let us start building the ground. I am selecting the ground tile map layer in the scene tree, and the tile map panel opens at the bottom automatically. I will click the paintbrush icon to enter paint mode. The tile source selected is tiles.png, and in the picker you can see the full sprite sheet laid out. Grass tiles at the top, dirt and rock tiles in the middle, edge and transition variants further down. I am picking the main grass top tile, green on the surface with dark dirt underneath. This is the tile that forms the very top of our terrain. I drag across the canvas to lay down a wide foundation. I am going broad here, building a platform that spans most of the level width. Do not worry about being precise at this stage. We are just establishing the basic shape first, and we will refine the edges afterward. Now, underneath the grass row, I need to fill in the solid earth. I switch to the dirt fill tile and paint several rows below the grass. A one-tile thin platform looks unnatural. You want real depth underneath to give the ground weight and solidity. Think of it like the platform has actual soil and rock beneath the surface layer. Here is a tip that saves a lot of time. Instead of painting tile by tile, hold Shift and click to draw a filled rectangle. Click once for the first corner, hold Shift, click the opposite corner, and the whole rectangle fills in one go. That is how I am filling those big sections so fast. Now the more interesting part, I do not want completely flat ground. That would be dull to play through. So I am sculpting the right side of the platform into a descending slope. I switch to the slope transition tile and step it downward, one tile at a time, like a staircase going down to a lower level. In the tile picker, you will notice base tiles and alternative tiles. The alternatives are the important ones here. They include corner pieces, edge caps, and slope variants. When your terrain changes direction, always use an alternative tile, not the base tile. If you use the base tile everywhere, your slopes will have missing corners and broken edges. You will see the debugger at the bottom, showing 527 errors in red. Do not panic. These are physics configuration issues on the tile set that we will clean up in a later session. The game is not broken. Zooming out to about 146% so we can see the full shape. Flat ground on the left side, staircase slope dropping down on the right. That is already looking like real game terrain. One last thing on the ground. Along the very bottom edge, I am painting the underside rock tiles. These are the dark brown chunky rock tiles from the tile sheet. Giving the ground a rough natural underside instead of a perfectly clean cut makes it feel like it was formed by the world rather than placed by a programmer. Which technically it was, but we do not want it to look that way. Let me check the inspector one more time. Physics layers is configured. Collision layer 1 is enabled. Use kinematic bodies is on. When our player walks on this ground, they will not fall through it. The collision data is baked right into the tile definition in Godot 4. You do not need separate collision shapes. That is one of the best features of tilemap layer. Ground foundation is solid. Time to build what goes behind it. Now, we are adding depth to the scene. The ground is done, but right now, it is just sitting in front of a blank grey canvas. We need something behind it. And the first thing we are going to add behind the ground is water. To do this, I need a new tilemap layer. I right-click on the Tiles node in the scene tree, go to Add Child node, scroll down to Tilemap Layer, and add it. I am renaming this One Background. You can see it now appears in the scene tree underneath the ground layer. Now, the most important step right now. With the background layer selected, look at the inspector on the right. Scroll down to Ordering. You will see Z index. I am setting this to -2. This is critical. In Godot, objects with a lower Z index are drawn first, which means they appear behind objects with a higher Z index. By setting this to -2, we are telling Godot to draw this background layer behind the ground, behind the player, behind everything at Z index 0 or above. If you skip this step and leave Z index at 0, the background tiles will render on top of your ground and you will have a very confusing mess on screen. Also in the inspector, make sure physics is disabled for this layer. The background is purely visual. We do not want water tiles to have collision. Navigation can stay on if you want, but physics needs to be off. Now I need to assign the same tile set to this new layer. Click the tile set slot in the inspector and assign the existing tile set. Good. Now, the tile picker at the bottom should show the same tiles as before. I am going to switch the tile source in the picker to tiles.png and scroll through until I find the water tiles. Here they are. Bright cyan blue. The asset pack has a few variants, a solid water-fill tile and a top surface tile with the white foam edge on it. The top surface tile is the one you want for the very top row of the water. It looks like actual water surface with a ripple. The fill tile goes below it. I am going to paint a large rectangle of water lower in the level, below the cliff edge where the ground slopes down. I fill in the top row with the surface tile first, then fill the body underneath with the solid water tile. Now zoom out and look at what we have. The ground slopes down on the right, and at the bottom of that slope, there is a body of water. Even with no animation, no shaders, no lighting, just those two tile sets side by side, it already reads as a cliff above a lake. The asset art is doing a lot of the work for us here. Let me also show you something in the scene tree. I have got a tile map layer node showing up as a child of background as well. That was added separately, and we will use it for some additional decorative background elements later in the session. I want to check something in the tile source as well. I am switching to propsrocks.png in the tile picker. Look at what is in here. Rocks of all sizes, mushrooms, wooden barrels, crates, fences. These are all decorative prop tiles we can paint onto the level for environmental detail. We are not using them right now, but I want you to know they exist so we can come back to them. One thing I also want to point out, the background layer has its Z index set correctly, but I also need to make sure the Y sort is configured right. With the background layer selected, in the inspector under ordering, Y sort enabled should be off for background layers. Y sorting is for objects that need to appear in front of or behind each other based on their vertical position in the world, like a top-down game. For a side scroller like this, we handle depth purely through Z-index. All right, the water is in, the background layer is set up correctly. Let us now build the visual background that will go even further behind all of this.
This is the part of the session I have been looking forward to the most. We are building the parallax background layers. This is what transforms the level from looking like a tech demo into looking like an actual game world. The idea with parallax is simple. You have multiple background layers, each one representing a different distance from the camera. Objects far away move slower than objects close to you. In a full implementation, you would use a parallax background node in Godot to handle the scrolling speed differences automatically. But for now, we are building the visual layers first, and we will wire up the parallax scrolling in a later session. The 3 layers we are adding are background mountains, background trees, and background trees 2. Each one sits progressively closer to the viewer than the last. Let me add the first one. Right-click on the background node in the scene tree. Add child node, tilemap layer, and I will call this one BG Mountains. Assign the tile set. And now critically, set the Z-index to -25. That puts it very far behind everything else in the scene. For this layer, I am switching the tile source to background.png. Look at what is in here. This is a completely different set of tiles from what we have been using. There is a gradient sky tile, silhouette mountain shapes, silhouette tree shapes, cloud shapes. This whole tile sheet is designed for background layers. Exactly like this, I am selecting the mountain silhouette tile. It is a jagged, dark gray, triangular shape. I am painting this across the full width of the level at the top of the background area. I need to cover the entire horizontal span, so there are no gaps when the camera eventually scrolls. I'm also using the flat mountain-based tile to fill in beneath the peak tiles, so the mountain shape has a solid base and does not float. Now let me add the second background layer. Back to the scene tree, add another tilemap layer under background. Call it BG Trees. Z-index is also -25, but because it is lower in the scene tree order than BG Mountains, it will render in front of it. Scene tree order matters when Z indices are equal. For this layer, I am using the dark tree silhouette tiles from background.png. These look like pine trees, tall and triangular. I am painting clusters of them across the layer, varying the heights slightly so it does not look like a repeated pattern. Some groups of 3, some groups of 5, leaving gaps between clusters. I also want to add the trees folder assets here. Looking at the file system panel, you can see inside the trees folder there is darktree.png, goldentree.png, greentree.png, redtree.png, and yellowtree.png. Each one is a full-sized tree sprite that can be used as a tile. I am going to include some of these in the BG Trees layer to add variety. Now the third layer. Add another tile map layer. Call it BG Trees 2. Again, Z-index -25. This layer will have a slightly different tree tile or a different scale to create separation between this layer and the previous tree layer. Even a subtle difference in the tile choice makes the parallax depth feel much more convincing. I am also now filling in the sky. Across the very top of the entire background area, I am painting the sky gradient tile from background.png. It is a teal-green color that fades from darker at the top to lighter at the horizon. I fill the full width with it and stack a few rows deep, so there is enough sky visible above the mountaintops. Let me zoom out now, way out, to about 56% zoom. And look at that. We now have a sky at the top, mountain silhouettes in the middle distance, 2 layers of tree silhouettes in front of that, then the ground with the water below it. This is a complete scene. It has depth and atmosphere entirely from tile placement. I want to quickly explain the z-index hierarchy so it is clear. The BG Mountains layer is at -25. The BG Trees layer is also at -25, but it is lower in the scene tree, so it draws in front. The BG Trees 2 layer, same thing. The water and the general background layer are at -2, which puts them in front of all the -25 layers, but still behind the ground at 0. The ground is at 0. The player is also at 0, but drawn on top by scene tree order. Now I'm going to add a water layer as well under the background node, just to separate it cleanly from the other background elements. And I also notice the scene tree is getting more complex. We now have player, static body, 2D, tiles with objects, ground and background inside it. And then background with BG trees, BG mountains, BG trees 2, water, and trees all inside it. That is a healthy scene tree for a 2D level. Keep your layers organized like this from the start, and it will save you a lot of headaches later. All right, background is done, and it looks fantastic. Now we are coming back to the foreground and adding the final layer of detail that makes this world feel lived in. I am adding a trees tilemap layer. This one is different from the background tree layers. Those were silhouettes in the far distance. This trees layer is at z-index 0, meaning it lives in the same visual plane as the ground and the player. These are real foreground trees that exist in the game world itself. With this layer selected, I am switching to treeassets.png in the tile picker. Look at these tiles. They are much more detailed than the silhouettes we used for the background. Full color, fully rendered trees with visible leaves and trunk details. These are the trees the player will actually walk past. I'm going to paint some of these around the level. I want them to feel naturally scattered rather than evenly spaced. So I put a cluster of 2 or 3 together, then leave some open ground, then another tree, then a gap. Think about how trees actually grow. They cluster together and leave open clearings between them. Now I want to create a real landmark in this level, a set piece that makes the world memorable. I am switching to propsrocks.png and looking for the large rock tiles. The asset pack has individual rock tile pieces that, when placed together, form a much larger structure. What I am building here is a rocky cave arch. I am using the large dark rock tiles and stacking and combining them into an arch shape. A wide, flat base on either side, curving inward and meeting at the top to form a tunnel entrance. This takes a bit of patience to get right, because you are essentially making pixel art one tile at a time. This is the kind of thing that separates a generic tilemap level from one that feels like a real location. One distinctive landmark that the player will remember. The cave arch will be a recurring visual reference point in the level. Now I am panning right in the editor, and you can see that the level extends quite far to the right of where we started. The ruler at the top shows we are at 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 pixels and beyond. There is a whole section of undeveloped terrain out here to the right. I am going to continue extending the ground tiles out to the right, shaping new platforms and slopes. The level design continues as I go. A flat section here, a drop down to a lower platform there, another cliff edge further right. Honestly, this is the part of game development that is the most flow state inducing. You just keep building and the world keeps growing. It is very satisfying. I'm also going back to refine the ground edges we laid down earlier. Anywhere I see a hard straight cut where there should be a slope tile, I fix it. Anywhere a corner piece is missing, I add it. The difference between a rough tile layout and a polished one is usually just going back and swapping out those edge tiles carefully. One more thing I want to do on this layer, I am painting some smaller decorative prop tiles around the base of the trees and rocks. Little pebbles, small mushrooms, grass tufts. These come from the props rock sheet. Scattering environmental detail like this at ground level makes the scene feel less sterile and more like a real natural environment. The foreground is really coming together now. Let us do a final pass and then wrap up. All right, let us zoom all the way out and take a proper look at what we built today. I am panning slowly from the left side of the level to the right. Look at that. Sky at the top, mountain silhouettes behind everything, 2 layers of tree silhouettes creating parallax depth. The main ground platform with grass on top and a rocky underside, water filling the lower cliff area. The rocky arch set piece in the middle of the level, and foreground trees scattered naturally across the terrain. All of this was built entirely with tilemaps. Not a single line of code written today. No shaders, no scripts. Just tiles placed thoughtfully on organized layers with correct Z-ordering. That is the power of a well-set-up tilemap system in Godot 4. The final scene tree has our player, the tiles group with ground and background gameplay layers, and the background group with BG mountains, BG trees 2, water, and foreground trees all stacked in the right order. Huge thank you to Sadiart for the Legacy Fantasy Asset Pack. Link is in the description. In Session 3, we are building the player character. Movement, animations, and actually running and jumping through this world. The collision is already set up on the ground, so it should work right away. Drop any questions in the comments. I read all of them. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in Session 3.